After an intense couple of rounds that have challenged the patience of some of the drivers, the hits just keep on coming this week with the gem of Central Florida, Sebring, whose fortitude of will is strong enough to withstand this brutal course. And will someone be able to put a stop to Gummer? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the next round of the Driving Club at Road Atlanta, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Michael Johnson. Our director is Christian Deploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sebring has seen almost every type of car race imaginable over the last, who knows how long. It seems like it's been here forever. But to find out what makes this place special, let's take you down to our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course.
Well, what's this race going to look like? This race weekend, we should say. It's going to be a couple of races. It's going to be round 5 of 6. The first race, 30 minutes, just like the second race. But we're going to have an inversion for our second race. The top 10 finishers get to flip their positions. Now, of course, we have open setups, and these drivers have to be careful at a track like this because every one of those incident points counts at least one, and they only get 25 of them. Now, also, there's a bit of rain today, which should make getting to those 25 incident points pretty interesting. So we'll see how it works out for these guys, how many they're going to get, but let's hope we don't see any drive-throughs because a wet track at Sebring is a scary track at Sebring. Let's take a look at what's going on here. These guys should be lining up in just a moment. We've got on row 1, Rafael Torres is in the pole position, and unusually, Jamil Gummer is in P2. David Madden, P3, Andrew Martin in 4th. On the 3rd row, Jason Owens and our fan favorite Flip alongside him. Daniel Vincent is in 7. P8 is Seth Thomas. Adam Faust is in 9th with Cameron Campbell rounding out row number 5. On the next row, for our last 2 drivers, Marat Sterenberg and Lynn Tron, filling out row number 6 in P11 and 12. Now, this is going to be a bit of an exciting race. It is raining. The weather is coming down, and it looks like it's going to be here for a little while. So I expect this first race to be fairly damp. If you take a look at the cars on the grid, when we get a chance to see them, you're going to see they've got those little lights flashing on the back. Now, quick standings for the overall. For the race season up to now, Jamil Gummer, of course, in first place. David Madden, 83 points back in second. Daniel Vincent is in third. And Rafael Torres, our current pole sitter, is in fourth, 147 points back. Tied with him, Philip Crane, also known as Flip, in fifth. Now Jason Owens is in sixth, with Andrew Martin in seventh. Adam Faust, Seth Thomas, and Alan Carter round out your top 10 in the standings. So we're going to take a look here as we have a nice overhead shot as they come through turn 17, named that way because 17 ways in, 17 ways out. It is quite the crazy track, and it looks like we've got a runner. Look at him go. That's going to be Torres taken off at the beginning. He is not wasting time. He is on the gas and off to the races. Look at him get out there. Now right behind him looks like Jamil Gummer is still trying to close it up. And back behind there, everybody coming through fairly well. No major issues in this race so far. Turn one in the rain at Sebring without an incident. I gotta say, this is probably a first in history, not just in the sim, but also real life, because wow, that is a treacherous place. You go from about 5-6 car widths down to about 3. So it makes it really tough. And we got a little bit off there. I think that was possibly Andrew Martin, maybe. Yeah, not looking good, but he was able to recover it. Everyone's still on track. Everybody's still looking pretty good. No major incidents so far. Meanwhile, back up at the front, Torres is still holding on. We've got right there, that's going to be Martin, Andrew Martin, in that interesting little kind of day glow. I think that's going to be really helpful here today. People will be able to see you a whole lot easier in that car. So taking a look at our gaps right now, if you take a look on the left side there, you see everybody's still pretty close together. And that's hard to do when it's this wet. Oh, look at that. That's going to be Jamil Gummer. He is our leader of for the season, the overall standings. He's just kind of wiggling that car around and trying to have to deal with a lot of that spray coming up off of the car of Torres in front of him. The Porsche just kicking up a whole big rooster tail. Meanwhile, Jamil Gummer trying to find some grip out there, not going out as far as Torres did. Notice Torres going through that last corner there, decided he wanted to get outside and round that car around, and now he's up on the inside. He is looking for a little bit more traction. Owen's back there giving a little flash of the lights. I don't know if that's so he can see better or not, but look at this, going really wide there on board with Jamil Gummer. It is tough to see, but now puts on the power as best he can. A little bit of opposite lock there, right up against the wall. That is fantastic driving from Jamil Gummer. Now he gets back over to the right. Meanwhile, Torres, holding onto that left side, moves back over, coming into turn one. This is going to get exciting through here because now the track is changing. We've got more rain coming down, and trying to find a dry line is going to be next to impossible because as one car goes over, well, it's just going to rain before the next one gets there. And I don't care how close you are, it's going to get wet again. So right now, the advantage really leaning towards this Porsche. The Porsche with that wheel, those rear wheels having a motor sitting right over the top of them, help him get the traction he needs when he comes off that corner. Trying to put a little bit of spray up into the face of Jamil Gummer. Jamil's not taking it though, stays on that offline side, looking for that extra traction, trying to make sure he can hold on to the tail end of Torres. Meanwhile, Torres, once again, just rocketing off the corner, almost 7/10 out in front now. He's really got the traction coming out there, but I think Jamil Gummer really has a good eye for where that traction might be. As we see them going into the corner, looks like, a little bit wide. The Porsche is able to get the power down. Meanwhile, going around the outside, what's going to happen? Torres still holds on to the lead, but not for long. It looks like it's going to be Jamil Gummer in the place where we're used to seeing him out front. What does Torres have for him, though? Torres, just one quick little mistake under braking, let that pressure get to him. Meanwhile, off the track back there, that's going to be Flip. Unfortunately, Flip, that Mustang is tough in the rain. I can tell you from experience, having driven it here in iRacing, man, that Mustang is tough. It's a beast in the dry, as we have seen. It is an absolute hoot, lots of power, but in the rain, it gets to be a bit of a handful. Meanwhile, well, we've got a Mustang out front. So Rafael Torres Jr., he wants to catch back up to Jamil Gummer. I think he thinks he's got it because he did a really good lap in qualifying. Meanwhile, he's getting through that final corner. This is turn 17. 17 ways in, 17 ways out. Gets the power down beautifully. It's about 0.8 of a second. Gets all the way to the outside, looking for that traction. Notice how he sits there on that left side. He thinks there's going to be more traction there. Meanwhile, Jamil Gummer, 2:21.3, almost 4 for that fastest lap so far. Doing all right now that he's got out in front and he didn't have all that spray up in front of him. Rafael Torres, anyway, hanging here behind him, still looking for that grip. This is where he kind of lost it last time, so he's going to try to find it. See, he's going wide of that apex there. Staying a little bit wide is exactly what you want to do when you just don't know where the grip is. You got to look for it. You got to find it. Eventually, it will come back, but right now, it's still about 0.8 of a difference between these two cars, and they are rocketing away. The next car back is going to be Jason Owens, and he's got 3.5 to 4 seconds behind them. And looks like it's going to be a little bit more, as I think he just went off back there. Yep, indeed he did. And then Andrew Martin is going to be closing up right behind him in that Acura with the wonderful yellow paint job. But Jason Owens trying to hold on to that position as the Acura looks like it's going to come around heavy under braking. Two Acuras going door to door. Ooh, a little bit wide there. Is he able to hold on to it? Got to stay out of that puddle right there at the apex. You don't want to get too much water up under those tires. They can only expel so much. So here we go, coming down again into this next corner right at Tower, puts the power down, not using the whole track. I think he got a little bit too much track last time where he went off, and that's how Martin was able to get around him. Andrew Martin being able to hold on to that position. Let's take a look at the replay real quick, see what happened with him. Oh, this is going to be Flip going off. Flip lets that rear end get around, a little bit of pendulum effect, and then, almost high centers it right there on that curb. That car will absolutely high center there in real life. I know for a fact because I've been high centered exactly there. So good idea to keep those rear wheels going and push himself up onto the grass. And then here we've got, just missed that brake point. Got a little bit wide. I've probably done that too. Meanwhile, Jamil Gummer pulling yet another fastest lap, 2:20.656. That is absolutely flying here in the wet conditions like this. When it is this wet, being able to run that quickly. Oh, looks like Gummer, just missed it on the corner. And Torres back into the lead. Man, it's going to be a story of brakes here. Who is able to find the traction under braking? If you remember, when Gummer was coming up to take over that first position, he got it because of good brake technique. He was able to be offline where it was a little bit nicer and cleaner, and then, getting wiggly there. But let's take a quick look at the replay. I want to see exactly how this unfolded. So here we are coming up into turn one. Look at that. Just gets a lot of water up underneath there. Super wide. He was not able to get it down. Torres, a little bit slower into the corner, a little bit more patience, able to get around him. Meanwhile, Gummer was trying to fight back, couldn't quite get it around. Now, he's lived to fight another day, though. But if I know Jamil Gummer, he's going to be able to close this back up. We have watched him race after race after race from as far back as, I want to say, about 13th or 14th position, come all the way back to the front. So Jamil Gummer definitely got some talent here, is going to be able to close this up. little bit of flash of the lights. Maybe he hears us talking about him. I'm not sure. I know some drivers like to have the broadcast on kind of low in the background, and yeah, every once in a while you mention their name and you'll see their lights flash. So let's just say that's what's going on, because he's so good he can take time to listen to this live. Anyway, taking a look out the back here of the Porsche of Torres. Look how much that rooster tail gets up there, and you see Jamil Torres. Sorry, I'm combining the two. Jamil Gummer going a little bit offline and getting too far out once again. Oh, that has got to hurt, but watch him catch back up. That Mustang has just got some power as they come through turn 17 and just power down this straightaway up to turn 1. Now this is where looks like Gummer lost it last time. Little wiggly again as he comes around, but he holds on to it. Windshield wipers going, power down, gets pretty far out, gets a little bit wiggly one more time. He is really hungry to close this up. I don't think he has actually lost a race yet, and he doesn't want this to be the first one, because honestly, racing in the rain at Sebring is really exciting, and it's quite the feather to put in your cap. So let's see if he can hold on to this and get on up to the front. That's going to be the challenge for him this evening. Meanwhile, Torres still trying to hold on to it, looking, see, he's just going back and forth there, trying to find that traction, and then puts the power down coming off the corner. That is a tough corner. The hairpin there, sometimes called the hotel turn. You've really got to get the car slowed down and turned around to get that power down. Gummer has closed this back up, though. He is sitting at about 6/10 off of his tail, really hungry to get back around, but Torres is not looking to let that happen. He has really opened this up. Now, looking back through the field here on my monitor, just want to let you know, not a whole lot else going on. Everybody's really kind of spread themselves out a good bit. This is where the action is tonight. This is the action on track. Everybody else kind of has 2, 3, up to 15, 30 seconds here and there. So, yeah, there is stuff going on. But, man, looking at Jamil Gummer just dance that car across the track all through those puddles. This is where the action is. Now this time Gummer's going wide. He wants to get that kind of rotated around and get a little bit more speed as we head up this backstretch coming into turn 17. Is he going to be able to make this? You can see that rain light flashing just frantically on Rafael Torres Jr.'s car. Ooh, closing up as we get into the brake zone. Gotta get out of the spray so you can see where you are. Now again, there is pretty much no wrong way to go through this corner. You have so many different entries, so many different exits, and you just got to take where you can find the grip. And with the conditions like they are right now, the grip is going to be pretty much random. Honestly, you've got to figure out where is it this time? Where was it last time? Where can I expect it to be as we get a little bit wiggly again here on board with Gummer in this Mustang? Now, I think Gummer may be trying to see if he can drive absolutely every car on this track. Or sorry, in this series. I've seen him in the Porsche. We saw him in the Acura. Every car he gets in, though, he absolutely tears it up. He is just flying in every car. And look at him here. He's going to come up alongside. He's got a tiny bit of overlap as he goes into the brake zone, a little bit of contact. Oh, get the car turned around, and oh, another little kiss on the tail as they put the power down. But once again, that Porsche, with all that weight over those rear wheels, is able to come off the corner just a little bit better because he's got a tiny bit more traction as they come out. So how is it looking now, though? Look at that rain come down. That is just absolutely cats and dogs right now. These guys are going to have a hard time seeing as they get closer to the cars in front of them. Meanwhile, looking back in the pack, looks like Flip is trying to close up onto Daniel Vincent. And Seth Thomas is trying to close up on Jason Owens. Jason has lost contact with Andrew Martin. Andrew having a bit of a boring race right now. It looks like Marat Sterenberg has a little bit of an excursion into the grass. But meanwhile, still back here up at the front, look at that Porsche just try to hold on to that position. Woo, that is some racing. And that Mustang going sideways actually has a tiny bit of overlap here right now. Can he drag race him down? Mustang is known for its drag race. It's got a lot of power and it loves these straight lines. He gets back in front as we come up into the braking zone of turn 17. Ooh, Torres going wide outside the cone, but oh no, we got a little bit of a sliding sideways drift show out of Jamil Gummer. Torres able to close this back up, right up under the rear wing. Oh, and he's going to hold onto that left side, stick right down the wall. He knows he's got some traction there. He has found it before. He's going to find it again. He's going to hold on to that. But meanwhile, Jamil Gummer, oh, and he's going to go around. Oh no, it's just a little bit too much on that right foot on the pedal. Sent the car around. Now, this is quite the gap we got here. This has opened up to almost 5 seconds. But don't let that dissuade you. Don't start to think that Jamil Gummer cannot close that up. We have seen him close up gaps bigger than this. So I think Rafael Torres knows that, and I think he's going to sit out front and do everything he can to put in absolutely perfectly clean laps. Phew. So meanwhile, taking a look here, this is going to be on Andrew Martin. Andrew is now looking out his front window at another car that he couldn't see for quite a while. He sees the spray coming up off of Jamil Gummer's car and thinks, oh, maybe I've got a prize here. Did he get damaged? He doesn't really know unless those guys are talking in the background, which is possible. But he sees him up there and thinks, well, time to start licking my chops. I think I might be able to make something out of this, as Andrew Martin gets a little bit wide going through that corner, tries to put the power down and comes off very nicely. Still got about 3 seconds up to Gummer though. So trying to close that up. Let's take a look at the replay here. This is going to be quite interesting to watch Gummer as he comes up here going through turn 1, gets the nose down. Right there is where he wants to go on power, but nope, just a little bit too early. So, wow, that's a rough one. And now it looks like Gummer is going to have to go for repairs, trying to see if there was an incident. I got a little note and seems like something happened to Gummer. Here we are. It looks like, oh yeah, that's not how you want that car to drive. And that's not just being on the grass. This is tough. So Gummer is going to have to get himself back to the pits and go ahead and take those repairs. Meanwhile, that puts Rafael Torres Jr. out front with a sizable lead over Andrew Martin, who is now in second. Meanwhile, Seth Thomas, who was in fourth, looks like he's about to lose fourth place. He's going to need some repairs too. Look at the right front of that car. That is not a clean line. Mustangs seem to be having a bit of a time today. Great, wonderful cars. Fantastic cars even, but man, that was tough. Let's take a look at what happened with Jamil Gummer though. I think we got a GSR replay right here coming up into the corner. Once again, just a little bit too much speed and boom, kisses that tire wall. Now, normally that tire wall is not going to be too much of a big deal, but as he's trying to get going again, he is just struggling to get some traction, then gets back onto the track almost, and then yeah, it just created a little bit of damage. That probably maybe bent a tie rod or something like that, because that's what it looked like. He was crabbing a bit, having some trouble keeping that car going straight. But that means he might be up close to the front when we get back to the second race, because remember, in this series we have a flip of the top 10. And it might be all 12 that flip, because I think last week, in last week's race, the second race, they did flip the entire field. So Jamil Gummer at the back now in P11. Well, that means he's going to be in P2, unless it's only the top 10, and then he's still in P11. But again, we know, don't let that stop you from thinking he's going to win, because he certainly can. Meanwhile, we've got Rafael Torres Jr. up at the front again. Or still holding on to that position with that Porsche, just gingerly placing that car perfectly every chance he gets, looking for a little bit more traction. And now, yeah, we still got rain. Beautiful shot there from Dougie Beard, our cameraman, making sure we've got these fantastic shots. look at the spray still coming off that car. Now you can barely see that rain light flashing away. Now here he is coming up into turn 17 once again, and Andrew Martin looking like he wants to get a little bit closer, about 6 seconds off the tail, holding on to P2. Happy to be in P2, I think. But meanwhile, Torres still out front, not doing that left wall run like he was earlier. That's interesting. I wonder if he has decided the traction isn't there, or if that was only something to kind of get Gummer's goat. Meanwhile, Gummer moving up into P10, getting around Lin Tran, and still putting the power down in that Mustang. Now he's had his fast repair. He is coming up here into the hotel turn, or the hairpin, as it's sometimes called. I hear drivers call every turn here by about 8 different names. I've heard turn 17 called Sunset. I've called it Sunset, but I get so used to calling it turn 17 that that's kind of the name that sticks in my head. Anyway, here we are again. Rafael Torres Jr. still sitting out front. His gap is staying very nice at about 6.5 seconds. He's just holding on to this over Andrew Martin. You got another good chunk of time, about 14 seconds, to get back to Jason Owens in P3. So really putting on the show here. Torres is absolutely doing this the way it should be done. He hasn't overdriven the car. Well, maybe once. He did get a little bit wide in a couple of corners, which did allow Gummer to get around. But now that he doesn't have that pressure on him, he's got this nice open racetrack, no one in front of him, and just a few minutes left in this race. Now, this is a 30-minute race, remember, and we've got final lap going on right here. As he's coming around, this looks like he's going to be pretty safe for the win, even with his 6.5 seconds. Meanwhile, behind him, these guys are hoping, whoa. Now, this car isn't normally a bicycle, and especially not in the wet, as he comes down across this last little bit of track, looking for his first win of the season. And here we are coming into the final corner as the raindrops are easing up. The rain is definitely slowing down, just as we see Torres coming around the final corner here, puts the power down, making his way to that finish line. And our winner in race 1, Rafael Torres Jr., fastest lap right at the end with a 2:20.145. Behind him, about 6 seconds back, Jason Owens. Andrew Martin, and behind him is going to be Jason Owens, who's making his way around that final corner right now, puts the power down, happy to hold on to P3, about 18.5 seconds back. So nice drive there from Jason Owens. Little bit of a halfway recovery through that. P4 looks like we've got Daniel Vincent, and Daniel trying to make his way through. Yep, going to cross the line right there, Daniel Vincent, and then Flip right behind him. Woo! Flip thought he might get him a little piece of that, still coming in 5th place. Seth Thomas makes it 6th. 7th is going to be Adam Faust as they come around. He gets, I may have spoken too soon. He's getting a little bit too much grass there. Cameron Campbell going, yes, please do that again. Coming up for the finish, takes that inside line. Can he get his nose in as they get into the final corner? This is going to be pretty exciting. Oh boy, and he gets wide as Cameron comes into the inside. Up door to door, they put the power down, coming up, trying to race to that final line. It looks like Faust is probably going to be able to hold on to this. Adam Faust coming in 7th, Campbell coming in 8th. Meanwhile, further back, we have Murat Sterenberg. Murat making his way down that back straight, going into turn 17. Looking like he's just going to let the car come around gently. No need to push it. Behind him, good 8 seconds or so back, is going to be Jamil Gummer, who looks like he's going to end up with P10. Now, the differently minded among you may wonder if he did this on purpose so he would end up in the pole position for the next race. But there you have Jamil Gummer in P10. Meanwhile, P11, Lin Tran working his way in that Mercedes, the big Merc, rumbling across the finish line for the finish. And that's going to be David Madden, I think, 12, a couple of laps back. So how did this race stack up from the beginning? Well, it looks like we had Rafael Torres Jr. He was able to hold on to that, going back and forth just a bit, but ultimately hold on to that first place. Andrew Martin in P2, Jason Owens P3. In fourth place, Daniel Vincent. Flip was in fifth. Seth Thomas in sixth. Adam Faust in seventh. Cameron Campbell was able to get a real nail biter there at the end with Adam Faust and came in eighth. Murat Sterenberg in ninth. Jamil Gummer with some, well, just, we'll call it bad luck, but good luck on his fight back from last up to 10th place. In 11th place, we had Lynn Tron in that beautiful rumbling Mercedes, and David Madden a couple of laps back in P12. Now, it looks like the track might be clearing up a bit. We currently don't have any precipitation, nothing around, but this track is still wet. I think they're going to probably go out on wets right now. They've got a couple of minutes to be able to get their mind back on the track. Maybe if they had repairs or something, the car is back to being repaired. They kind of need to take this time to hopefully dry out a good dry racing line on this track. Are they going to be able to do it and go to slicks? Well, that's going to be the roll of the dice that we're going to look for. It could be interesting to see how this works out, because these guys, well, they've got they've got some challenges ahead. It is often wet at Sebring. Now, this is an old track. This track has been around since New Year's Eve of 1950. And it's made of an old airbase. This was an old airbase. You can kind of see where the runways were, and there's an airport right next door. But if you get on your Google map or whichever map app you like to use and you go there, you can actually see where those runways were. Now, it's 3.7 miles, 17 turns, Sunset Bend, also known as Turn 17. That's a tough one. This is in Sebring, Florida, which is right in the middle of the state, right there by the big lake in the middle. You see when you're looking at it. Just wow, what a fantastic track! There are so many different track surfaces here. I think the number. I think somebody went out there and actually counted the different track surfaces of different compounds of different types of track surface, and I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 35. I don't have the exact number, and there may be hyperbole in there. I'm not certain. But these guys are finding every inch of track that they can and hoping they're able to maybe have a semi-dry race and hopefully get out there with some slicks. It gets pretty crazy out there when it's in these mixed conditions because of all those different track surfaces. When it's not wet like it is right now, those track surfaces can have an effect on the car, but all that is really amplified hugely when you try to do slicks on a damp track. Now we've got some winds blowing here, about 12 miles per hour. That's going to help dry that track off a bit. And then the cars being out there, they are all kicking up little rooster tails still. And as I look through, it looks like a few of them probably have some have slicks on, because I see them struggling getting into a couple of corners where they should be okay, and especially coming off the corners. Taking a look here, I can see Jamil Gummer on one of my monitors. He's just having fun fishtailing the car now. Not quite what he wants to have happen, but get the feel for it, and you get into the race conditions, he won't have the bad luck that he had last time. So anyway, taking a look here, yep, there we go. Just watching him wiggle that car back and forth. This is going to be bringing it up to a stop. Try to restart. Maybe going to go back and see about getting some wet tires to see how those work. This is a great opportunity. They still got about a minute and a half left to just feel it out and see, how is this going to work? Do I need to be on dries? Do I need to be on wets? Is it going to be fast enough to go out on the on the wets and then switch to dry once we get a dry line? Remember, this is a very short race. So looks like we've got several people on the dries. Ooh, now, yeah, that's a bit crazy right there, trying to get that power down. You got to get the temperature in the tires. Remember, these slicks work at a much higher temperature range than the wets do. The wets are designed to work a little bit cooler, which if you watch different racing series, you'll see a lot of times the drivers are searching for that wet to cool the tires down just because they get too much heat in them. Now, going across the grass, while that does cool them down, is really not an authorized way to cool them down, or recommended, I should say. You can go on the grass all you want. It's just not going to do you very good during the race. So, meanwhile, let's see, is this Seth? Yeah, this is going to be Seth Thomas in his Mustang, trying to put some good times in. Only about 10 seconds left to try it out and see where he's going to be. Holding on to that corner pretty well. That Mustang is looking very well planted. So we shall see what his plan is when it comes race time. I'm going to see if we can figure out who's on wets, who's on dries, and out of those, who's going to be able to make it work? Because that's going to be the big question here. So let's take a look at our starting lineup for race number 2 here at Sebring. So I think most of these guys are going to be set up for a wet track, but it's going to depend on the individual to see what they want to do. So looks like we have the lineup coming here. Everybody's getting out onto the track. We've got about 30 seconds for our starting grid. David Madden is going to be in P1. He was our last runner. He was about 2 laps back. Lynn Tron going to be P2. Jamil Gummer right up front where he wants to be for race number 2 in the 10. And then Marat Sterenberg is going to be 4th with Cameron Campbell and Adam Faust. Good fight with those guys at the end of the last race, sharing row number 3. Row number 4, Seth Thomas and Flip, Daniel Vincent and Jason Owens on row number 5. And then on row number 6, Andrew Martin, and our last race winner, Rafael Torres Jr. So these guys are about to roll off the line here. The pace car is now underway. So these guys are going to have a little bit of a short lap. Now look at the track there. That looks pretty dry to me. I think we're seeing a pretty dry track, and it'll be interesting to see if somebody got caught with some wet tires on, because I think they might be able to do this just from the look of it with dry tires, and they are off. David Madden is doing exactly what Rafael Torres did last time. Looks like we've got a black flag for Lynn. And yeah, it looks like Lintron got a black flag, and then looks like Madden is still taking off out front as the rest of the pack comes up here through turn 1. Oh, we've got a 3-wide situation, a couple of rows deep. That's pretty exciting. So these guys, wow, this is going to be a lot of fun to see how that pans out as they kind of find their pecking order. Still going a little bit too wide here. I think that's going to be Lintron there, running with that black flag. Not sure why the black flag was, but looks like, yeah, I think still has to serve that black flag. So meanwhile, we're going to take a look. David Madden still out front. Jamil Gummer has come up into P2. The former P2 Lintron back to 11th. Cameron Campbell is going to be in 3rd. Seth Thomas in 4th. Andrew Martin 5th. Flip is holding on to 6th place. Meanwhile, Marat Sterenberg back in P9. Just got to slow down. Rafael Torres Jr. looks like he's moved up to P7. Jason Owens in 8th. Over Sterenberg back to Adam Faust has fallen back to P10 with Lintron in 11 and David Vincent in P12. This race moving on, just like the previous one started. You can still see a little bit of a rooster tail. Not quite what we were seeing last time, but there is definitely one there, as these guys are still kind of hunting for that traction. Going a little bit wide here. Oh, getting up close. That's going to be Jamil Gummer here, putting the power down, and no, he takes a nose into the wall, comes back across the track. Bad place for him to be sitting. Oh, spins the car back around, but it looks like he doesn't have too much damage. Although as he rolls away, that car is definitely crabbing a little bit. So that's going to be maybe game over for Jamil Gummer. Is he going to come into the pits? Nope, he has decided to keep driving on. I think that car is still drivable. So yeah, he's going to sit there. Look at that. Jamil Gummer still holding on to second, right up on the tail of David Madden. David was having a little bit of issue getting power down. But I don't know if he's got quite the talent that we saw earlier in Torres. So how is it going to work out for Gummer here? Is Gummer going to be able to close this up as well as he did and then hold on to it? Is Madden going to be able to hold on to this position? Madden had a tough race last time, but he's actually holding on very nicely this time. So as they go through the hotel corner through the hairpin, still able to put that power down pretty well. Yeah, look at that. He's able to open up a gap. Look, they come off that corner. That Porsche really has a nice ability to open up that gap as they come off the corner. So meanwhile, joining me here in the booth is going to be Alex Goldschmidt, as you know from every week. He is here with us. He's been watching alongside, taking some notes, and I think maybe a good comment or two for us.
Yes, it's definitely been exciting. I mean, Sebring's always tricky in the wet, as we've seen. You know, Jamil Gummer still trying to keep the Mustang going, but of course, Andrew Martin's leading this 4-horse race. You've got Philip Crane, aka Flip, in another driver that's decided to go with the pony car. In the GT3 side of things, Cameron Campbell finding that the wet weather is being a little bit of an equaliser. He's ahead of Rafael Junior Torres as Madden and Gummer down the Ullman Straight into Sunset Bend. And, well, yeah, I think Jamil Gummer got the get-out-of-jail-free card with the number 10 card, to be honest with you, on the previous tour. I mean, he lost it coming out of Le Mans and through Gendebeen. And we thought it was going to be the case that he was not going to carry on. But, yeah, it looks to be that damage is rather superficial. But to make the move through on David Madden... But we've still got 25.5 minutes of this race left to go, and Jamil Gummer sets a purple lap. Meantime, through at turn 1, Flip tries a move on the inside of turn 1 on Martin. So it's Acura versus Mustang. Now into the left-hander just after turn 2, and it's another Mustang that makes up a position. And Flip gets himself onto the final step of the rostrum at this particular moment as they go through Gurney Bend. Then it's the run down to hairpin turn, and then you got that very, very extensive momentum carrying section through from hairpin through to tower turn. But then you've got Fangio, Cunningham corner, Collier curve, and they're very, very different corners to... and difficult corners thereof, Michael, to circumnavigate their way through.
Yeah, these corners, especially with the changing conditions of the track, become really exciting. It's hard enough when this track is dry and you have perfect conditions, but you add a little bit of dampness, maybe some full-on wet here and there, and then another little dry patch just after that. It is so just frustrating at times. You don't know where you can put the car. So these drying conditions like this really make for some good racing. You've got to be absolutely on it. You've got to know every spot of this racetrack to find the right line to put the car on. Looks like Rafael Torres, though, is finding the right line. We've got him here up into P6, closing down onto Cameron Campbell. Cameron had that beautiful finish of the last race, but I think Torres might get him here before the start finish. What do you think?
Well, as I said, the weather, you know, there are some slight, and when I mean slight, there is nigh on non-existent. We can just about see it when the cars go through corners that there is some standing water on the circuit. Rafael Junior Torres coming through the first part of Sunset Bend, nearly clipping the inside wall on the right-hand side as Jamil Gummer now has really started putting the pedal to the metal. He's just put in the fastest lap of the race, a 2:03.066. Lead now, I mean, my goodness here, Michael, we're only like just shy of 7 minutes in, and Gummer has now got nearly a 6-second lead. So obviously David Madden in the Porsches had the Porsche doing Porsche things, which is, if you keep it nice and clean and tidy in the wet on the 992 GT3, then it's a pretty good car to handle. But when you throw in that little bit of saturation on the circuit, you are going to have a little bit more of over-rotation to deal with, because sometimes the cars can get a little bit loose depending on how the drivers have decided to attack this, let's say, multi-adhesive circuit, because Sebring's always been known as a patchwork quilt when it comes to the tarmac, doesn't it? There's always resurfacing here, resurfacing there, but that character of Sebring, it is a true challenge where the drivers are putting everything into it. But I've seen some. I mean, if anyone's watched IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship when they've raced at the night at Sebring, it is one of those races that you should not miss on the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship calendar season.
So a little insider on-track knowledge here with this racetrack. As you come around to Tower Corner, well, let's take a look at the replay here real quick. This is going to be Seth Thomas trying to close up. Oh, both of them going a little bit wide, and then Thomas gets the nose in. Oh, and they just miss it. Wow, that was a little bit crazy, but it looks like another Mustang has been able to make a nose front into the wall and then come back out and still be okay, because I think he is still going. He's doing all right. So anyway, back to Tower Turn at night and in the morning. In the morning, it's worse, honestly, because that 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, sun's coming up. You're in the car, you're out there, you're trying to put some laps down. You might have gotten woken up, 10 minutes before you're supposed to get in the car, and you go hop in and you skipped breakfast. But that whole camping area right there, as we watch Jason Owens put a little bit of pressure onto Torres, that whole camping area right there, everybody's out, everybody's cooking breakfast. You got bacon, eggs, sausage, all kinds of stuff cooking in there. And you get really hungry. You can smell it in the race car. So, and that's going to be, that looks like
that's
going
Cameron.
around there. That's going to be Campbell. That's Cameron Campbell there, letting that Porsche do, well, as you like to say, Alex, Porsche things.
Yeah, and Jason Owens, the man behind Dash SimSports, who we had a chat to post-race last week at the double header at COTA. Now moves his way back up into the 5th spot. Yeah, I mean, one person that I would never ask about turn 1 in the night at Sebring, and that man is a good friend of mine. You all know him, stateside. Works with Wayne Taylor Racing, of course, the Portuguese man of war. Felipe Albuquerque, who I've known since his days in DTM and with the LMP project with Audi. Had that famous coming together during the night for the championship. Which pretty much did nigh on decide what was going on in the championship side of things. And I've known Philippe for probably the best part of over a decade, so we've kept in touch. And don't ask me for his phone number, because I do have it in my cell phone at the moment. But yeah, don't ask him about turn 1 at Sebring in the night, because he'll say, "Man, don't remind me," because the first thing you don't want to do to a racing driver is give them post-traumatic stress disorder at all, because it is one of the worst things. It's one of the worst things. But Cameron is coming back at it now. Interesting information: Rafael Junior Torres and Daniel Vincent are the only 2 drivers that have gone with wet tyres. Everyone has gone slicks now, mainly because of the fact you can see a slight bit of spray coming from the rear diffuser of Rafael Junior Torres, who has stuck with the who's in the green and yellow, the Grillo style livery that Manthey Racing have used in previous races. Then, of course, you mentioned about cooking breakfast foods at circuits. I'm gonna give one for those motorsport lovers out there. Try the carousel at the Nürburgring at 7:30 in the morning when everyone's been on the beer the night before.
Oh,
And the
yeah, that's
the
fun.
drivers can smell it in the cockpit. They get a waft of it through the air conditioning, the air conditioning pipe that goes straight to the top of their race helmets, and they go like it's one of the most wonderful smells. But then you just realise, damn, I'm going to be in here for another 2 hours, aren't I?
Yeah, there, and YouTube Corner's another spot. Now let's take a look at the replay as Flip doing a little bit of a drift show for us. Good car for it, but just brings a little bit too far around and looks like gonna lose fourth place for that one. No, recover fourth place, I should say, for that one. While Martin is able to move back up into third. Martin finished second last race. Meanwhile, Flip is back into third, and he's got a little bit of pressure from Jason Owens. Jason Owens looking to take that position and letting Flip know, hey, I'm back here, and guess what? I'm coming for you.
The Jaws music is burning brightly in the ears of him at the moment as we get this wonderful camera shot. Of course, Rafael Junior Torres, the first person, apart from Jamil Gummer, to actually win a race in the driving club at Road Atlanta iRacing Winter League. And of course, we've got the sixth and final round, and it's going to be the Enduro, and of course, it's going to be, folks, at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta, just 5 days before the first member on-track event for Driving Club at Road Atlanta for 2025. And I know for a fact they're all chomping the bit. You and I both know our ears are probably burning. They're probably going like, yeah, we love being on the sim, but we just want to get behind the wheel of our own wagons. We just want to go pedaling the miles round Road Atlanta again because we've been waiting such a long time. But this is always a good thing for these drivers. It really gives them the confidence to push 11 tenths and not worry too much about a repair bill. Unfortunately, unlike yourself, Michael, that through your career, you've sort of like, when you get told, yeah, you're gonna get an invoice because you did a bit of damage to that car, and then you look and it's 5 figures, you're like, oh, there goes part of my sponsorship budget for this season.
Yeah, that's a lot of what the sponsorship budget goes to. There's always a pad in there. So let's say a driver, just for easy numbers, is going to be 100K for the year to have the car and everything all around it. Now that it's much more than that, but that's easy numbers. You're going to go in and you're going to get your sponsorships up for about 150 to 160 because the insurance on these race cars, yes, there is insurance on race cars. You generally have about a $10,000, some of them are between $5,000 and $10,000 deductible. So you'll never get a bill more than that, but it is possible to get a couple of bills. And having paid a few, I can tell you they hurt. I would much rather use that crash money as you kind of think about it. For a trip to, I don't know, Curacao or maybe somewhere in the Mediterranean, go on a nice scuba diving vacation. Much more fun than fixing the race car. But hey, you got to fix it. Everybody's got to fix it.
Maybe go to Greece for a couple of weeks and, like you say, have that scuba diving trip during 32, 36 degrees Celsius, which would be like 90 plus degrees Fahrenheit, and just enjoy the sun for a little bit of a change rather than thinking, damn, I've got a $5,000 deductible on my insurance policy because I just wrecked it at Sebring. But we are halfway through this race, and Rafael Junior Torres, looks like for him and Daniel Vincent, the ploy of going on to wet weather tyres here at Sebring, well, did work for a time, but obviously as the track is, we're seeing some really, really good lap times at the moment. Daniel Vincent has come out after his second pit stop. Lin Tran, who we saw in the only person that's actually bitten the bullet and gone with the Mercedes-AMG GT3. Of course, that car is represented Mercedes-Benz in GT3 racing. And it's going to be this year, I think, is the last year that the 6.2 naturally aspirated V8 is going to be used before they switch to the 4-litre twin-turbo V8 that not only occupies the gap underneath the hood between the front subframe and the front axles, like the Aston Martin V8 Vantage does at the moment. We're going to go to the GSRC replay. Oh, Cameron, what have you done now? Now this is going to be... Oh, he's gone a bit sideways.
You're just doing Porsche things.
Yeah. He's sparks flying from the diffuser. He's had a bit of a tank slapper, and I think that might have been coming through possibly Cunningham Corner.
Five. I think it was five. Looked like
Yeah,
five.
I think it
'Cause
was. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
the
there
Sunshine
was
Bridge was there.
yeah. So yeah, Cameron's still on for I think probably one of his best finishes, if not his best finish of the season so far. But yeah, I mean, Jamil Gummer will be a little bit frustrated that his. Oh, well, here we go. Owens versus Flip. And Flip, you can't look. One move, fine, but what was that? 4? Like literally weaving
at
from
least.
side to side down the Ullman Straights. And I was like thinking, well, and then Jason Owens from Dash Sim Sports was quickly on the flashers to say, come on, one move, fine, but it's a known rule in racing. Yes, of course, this is an iRacing league, but there are still some sporting regulations that I think the drivers could consider.
Yes, indeed. I hate seeing that. It doesn't help either of you to do that. And most leagues that I see have banned it. You're not allowed to do it. Standard iRacing rules, you're not allowed to do it. There's a whole list of videos iRacing has put out, and that's an example they use, is that weaving down the straight. They say it's absolutely not allowed. And if your league does allow it, what they will say is you get one move from corner to corner, or, and it's an and or, some of them are and, you can't move in response. And I always have to check which league am I driving, even in real life, because IMSA and SRO did it different ways. One of them was you got to make one move, and it didn't matter if it was in response or not. And the other one was you can make a move as long as it's not in response. So what you do if you got somebody moving in front of you is you move before they do, and now they've moved in response, and they should get a penalty for that.
Yep. And, well, they've got... Rexy's back. And that's going to be Adam Faust, who has not swapped cars all season long. I don't think Jason has either. A handful of people that have kept with the same car. Marat Sterenberg is another one
around.
of them.
Flip has flipped around.
Oh,
got his car pointing the wrong way again. Oh, that's
dear.
a bummer. That puts Flip back into 5th place. Jason Owens, meanwhile, moving up into 4th. He was harassing him pretty well. Flip was handling it as best he could, but I think ultimately what it came down to was that Acura was getting closer and closer, and the rear end just comes around. The Acura goes sailing right on by.
Yeah, that was a bit of a shame there. That was, I think, coming into Genderbeen, heading onto the Le Mans curve as Flip makes his way through Sunset. So down to just a shade over the last 10 minutes of this last race of tonight. And there is... now, this is what I love. I mean, now, for those of not just motorsport, but automotive historians out there, Motorcraft is part of the Ford dynasty, and also was known over in the United Kingdom as a, if you couldn't quite afford your OEM Ford parts, you could find a local Motorcraft supplier who would normally be with, like a factors division or something, and you'd probably find that the parts would be cheaper, but not too cheap to still have that OEM feel. But I love the fact that Jamil's run with the Motorcraft quality parts livery here on the Mustang GT3. It just reminds me of, if anyone might remember the old IMSA days where you had Spritzelstück with the IMSA GTO from Audi when it was that big whopping turbo. The car was producing about 600 brake horsepower, quattro all-wheel drive. I had the opportunity to go to the Audi forum a few years ago in Ingolstadt, and this was when they were, fun enough, test driving the first ever prototypes of the Audi e-tron, when Audi decided to go the electrification route. And one of the cars was the IMSA 90 GTO, a 200 GTO, and I was like, oh my God, it was just one of those tribute liveries. And you normally see it now, like say with the recent Bathurst 12 Hours with the Lamborghini that runs in the old BASF livery that used to be on the M1 Pro cars. Now, if anyone might remember the M1 Pro cars, when it was, you had the likes of Lauda, Fittipaldi, Andretti, all that lot, they would put them in a BMW M1 Pro car, and that was the car that was also in some ways helped with Lamborghini. Lamborghini built the car and then went bankrupt. And then BMW found themselves with a car that they could put on the road, but then what are we going to do with the race cars? And then they decided to put them as a support series to Formula One at that point. Meantime, Seth Thomas trying to close in and reel in hook, line and sinker. Cameron Campbell, battle for 6 across the stripers. We've got 8 minutes and 10 seconds to go, but there's a lot of motorsport history I could talk through and wax lyrical, but we've got some racing to contend with. Thomas up the inside. Cameron does not fight it and lets the number 81 Mustang through. So that is all three Mustangs now back into the top 6 with 7 minutes and 50 still to go. But a good move there from Seth. I think Cameron just thought, you know what, I want to stay as high as I can. And as I say that, oh dear, biffs the wall on the left-hand side, bumpers askew, and well, Cameron's race has just gone from bad to worse, and that's a fate of circumstance, not a commentator's curse or an announcer's curse. And finally, we clap eyes on Lin Tran's wonderful Mercedes AMG GT3.
Yeah, that GT3 had a bit of a difficult start. Started off with that black flag, but now it looks like he's having some connection issues. And we're going to take a look here at the GSRC replay. Oh, looks like a little bit wide there. And oh, that looks like an equipment failure. That was a weird turn to the right at the end there.
That was a sudden snap for Murat Sterenberg in the 296 GT3. Of course, we've seen Flip use that, but Lynn going with the traditional colours, silver, black, with a little bit of Patronus green there for good measure. Looks like Jason Owens is right on his 6 as they come through Sunset Bend. And yeah, there's also Adam Faust. Yeah, looks like Lynn has got a potential internet issue or a high ping, which means that the car's dropping in and out of the server at the moment. But Murat Sterenberg has been in the pits for nearly 2 minutes. But in the meantime, well, Adam Faust, that's... Oh, careful, Adam, careful.
This is not for position. This is to unlap. This is he had to switch tires or something, I think, or maybe not, but he was way back. So that is actually not for position. Adam Faust is currently in P10, and that car he just went around, well, that's Jason Owens, who's up in P4 right now. So going back to that BASF livery, do you know what BASF stands for?
Oh, now you. I know.
German or English, either way. You don't have to do it in German.
No, it's basically it's one of the largest chemical producers in the world, and it's a multinational company. I knew it was something like that, and I know it's based in Germany because I mean,
based in Mannheim.
Yeah. So, but it's a chemical. You know, it's like I think it's still around to this day, but to see that livery on of all cars at Bathurst, you see it on a Lamborghini Huracan Evo GT3 going across Skyline into the S's and into the Dipper in real life the past a couple of weeks ago. But yeah.
So, Badische Aniline und Soda Fabrik, which is from Baden. It's the Baden Aniline and Soda Factory. Is what it means. So let's take a look, though, back to the racing. Why is Adam Faust so fast and this far back? Well, on lap 1, I believe this was, we're going to watch him see the track was still a bit wet, and then, oof, a little snap of the wheel there. Did you see that snap?
Yeah.
As he came off the wall, it was all of a sudden. So I think this is why that car is so far back.
Yeah, well, plus also it knocked 7 shades of Shinola out of the left rear suspension because the front end hit the barrier on the outside wall quite hard, and then it sort of gave us the domino rally effect. So the front end hit it, then the back end hit it, and when he spun around on the initial camera shot, we saw that the left upright on the rear was completely loose, and he's just lost it again. All that pace and all that effort to get past Jason Owens around the outside at turn 1 has just been unceremoniously dumped in the toilet on that one. That's a real shame for Adam because he was showing really, really good pace. Now he's got Lin Tran right with him. Now that is a battle for 9th position. So, yeah, Adam's got to try and pull away a little bit here as they're going to be heading down in towards the final couple of corners of the lap. But Jamil Gummer, in the meantime, now looking to get back onto winning ways, is leading David Madden by just shy of 25 seconds. And, oh, this is Rafael Junior Torres. This is coming through Sunset Bend. Oh.
That wall's got a magnet in it. I swear, there's a magnet there in this race. Everybody, I think, has hit that wall. Coming around the corner, it draws the nose of every car that tries to go through there.
You know, one of the funniest things is that obviously for those people that have more of a technical understanding with regards to the cooling systems on these cars, the Porsche has never changed. It's always had the radiator and the cooling hoses are right behind the front bumper. So the biggest problem is that Porsche have never decided. Well, obviously there's homologation rules in place for GT3 spec racing all across the world, but you would think that Porsche would, for maybe their race car, do something a bit more sensible and maybe bring the cooling system underneath the hood of the car, but they can't do it because it then basically infringes on road car homologation. And there you see one Porsche with its intercooler and pipes very much exposed, that of Cameron Campbell. And this is a battle for position. 0.4 of a second separate Cameron Campbell, running without the front bumper. So and he has got no front end aero on that thing, so no front splitter, no canards, and through goes at Le Mans curve Rafael Junior Torres. But Cameron's giving him a little bit of stick here as well.
Yeah, this race is Porsche versus Porsche. There may be a slowdown there. I'm kind of surprised to see Campbell, with that missing nose on the car, being able to hold on quite as well as he is, especially considering that Torres won the last race and just kind of walked away from it. I mean, part of that was that Jamil Gummer had some issues, but Torres was able to really to own that race. Now, what has happened?
Cameron's just dived. Cameron just.
Oh, he dived into the pits.
He just dived into the pits. He went, you know what? I'm not. He's probably found that his force feedback on his direct drive has gone. Yeah, this ain't going to work, kiddo. You know, you got to pull that thing in the pit lane. And yeah, he's now on his marks in the pit box. But David Madden, who was leading until Jamil Gummer threw one past him. David has been a very, very consistent driver this season, which is why he's, well, at the point coming into tonight's racing, he was 83 points off of Jamil Gummer. And I think pretty much Jamil might have secured, more than likely, possibly, the standings, the overall win in the Winter iRacing League. Of course, we'll see how many points he's ahead of David when we go to Road Atlanta next week for the final race. And it's a 1 hour enduro, but the final lap is underway on lap number 15. There's Andrew Martin in the number 3 Acura, biggest mover of this race, started 11th on the grid and is currently running in the 3rd spot as he crosses the line to start his final lap round here at Sebring. But Jamil Gummer, once again, well, the record is not quite 100% like it was after last time out when we were at Kota, but Jamil's come back from that first race, so like having his pride knocked a little bit, but has decided, you know what, you want a 30-minute enduro, you want a 30-minute race? Oh, I'll give you all something to think about. And now that he's switched to the Mustang, I mean, he's running in the Acura for the majority of the races. He was in the Porsche at Daytona, switched to the Mustang here at Sebring, and now really is just a handful of corners away from taking the penultimate W of this Winter iRacing League for the driving club at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, he's put on kind of a masterclass in this second race. Having the dry conditions has really leaned towards the Mustang a bit stronger here as we watch him going down this straightaway up to the turn 17 Sunset Bend for the last time in this 30-minute race. Gets the nose in, gently brings it around, doesn't try to get on power too quickly, rolls on around all the way out to the wall, putting on a little bit of a show for it. And we have our winner of race 2, Jamil Gummer, bringing it across the line. Meanwhile, about half a minute back, David Madden. David started off this race in P1, currently running P2. He did not do so well last race. He was 2 laps back. Some incidents in that wet race just didn't work out for him. But this one looks like it's going to be a really nice finish for him. As long as his internet connection holds, he crosses the line and takes P2.
Not too sure what happened in front. Maybe that was Jamil Gummer having a bit too of an overzealous celebration down the start-finish straight to T1, because we definitely heard someone wreck in front of David. But it's going to be the number 3, Andrew Martin, in the Acura that's going to round out the rostrum. Whereas Jamil's going to be going down provisional victory lane. Jason Owens from Dash Sim Sports, the man who's been doing a lot of work with the driving club at Road Atlanta drivers with regards to setup and things. Seth Thomas will be the next of the placed Mustangs in 5th spot, having started 7th on the grid. Flip nearly takes a trip through the cones heading into Sunset Bend for the final time, as the number 4 Mustang comes out of Sunset Bend. Does not try and brave it to the wall like we saw with Jamil Gummer. Will cross the line and finish 6th. Rafael Junior Torres will very shortly be coming through Sunset Bend in the number 6 Porsche, and there he is in the Grillo livery. Started stone dead last in this one, and now will come out of the final corner and will take 7th. Cameron Campbell will finish down in 8th place ahead of Adam Faust, Lynn Schran, Daniel Vincent, and Murat Sterenberg did not re-venture out of the pit lane, having suffered significant damage in the 296 GT3, and will round up our running order. But Jamil Gummer picks up another win here, Michael, and well, we've still got one more round to go after this. We've got the 1 hour enduro at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta, next week on February 19th. So that should be a really, really good race. Of course, it's the home of Petit Le Mans at the end of every IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season. And yeah, these drivers are going to go, finally, we go to a track that we love. We rip around, we burn a few sets of rear tires, but yeah, Jamil Gummer again just showing what a powerhouse he's been, and he's done that for so many seasons with the driving club at Road Atlanta, Winter iRacing League, and once again, well, his streak was broken by Rafael Junior Torres, but Jamil Gummer will be very, very happy to be back on the winner's step.
Indeed he will. We're used to seeing him up there on the top step of the podium. That's kind of his home, it seems like. Every broadcast I've done, he's spent the majority of the time there in P1 on that top step. It's unusual for him to not be. And I do like that he really gets out there and tries as many different cars as he can. He has been in at least 3 that I can think of. I think, yeah, he was in the Acura, he was in the Porsche, and he's in the Mustang today. But as we mentioned earlier, one of the people who helps put this whole thing on, Jason Owens, is looking to come in here and give us a few minutes of his time. Jason, how was that race for you? It looked kind of exciting.
It was a good race. I enjoyed both races I went into, but
now, was the wet more than you were ready for on that first race, and then transitioning to the semi-dry to dry in that second race? How did all that play? Was it just kind of screwing with your head, or how did that work out?
no, I practiced about 10 minutes in the wet earlier, but I wasn't like super ready, but I had a good idea how it was going to be, other than I was pushing the brake zones a couple of times too much. But that transition into the race 2, we weren't sure how much the track was going to dry up, so we were all deciding whether we were going to run wets or dries, and most of us started on dries and a few started on wets. So
Yeah, it was interesting. We saw a couple of people try to get out there on the wets, and it worked out a little bit. But I think those who braved the slicks for that first little bit of the second race, I think it ultimately worked out better for them. So why don't you take just, I don't know, 30 seconds or so? Give us the elevator pitch on Dash.
So Dash is I race. I do a lot of coaching, and I've been using simulators for training since 2011. So for me, Dash is creating simulators for guys that race or on track and trying to create that one-to-one kind of transfer of their real car into a simulator, but also to create simulators for people that just want to have a good quality setup for sim racing.
And I can tell you from experience that having a good quality setup makes a difference. I've tried to race on not high-end stuff, and yeah, you can get around the track, but when you really start to put together a good base, a good wheel, a good frame, all the stuff really starts to work together, and it becomes more natural, in my opinion, when you're on a rig that feels real. And I think it helps a lot of people transition. I know I use my rig a lot to work with my clients before we get to the track, so they can have a feel for what they're going to see or for what they're going to get when they get to the track. So when you have somebody like you guys there, I think that helps a lot of people spend a lot less money on track. But it's so much easier to just hit the reset button than it is to kind of, replace door panels and get them painted and crash cars, uncrunch them.
Yeah, and a lot of our members are in higher end cars where the consumables are pricier. So if they can spend a little more time in the simulator, kind of at least learning the track and getting that muscle memory built up before doing a lot of wear and tear on their real cars in real life, kind of helps them progress a little quicker.
Yes, indeed. I know consumables get to be pretty crazy. Tires, easy to spend $3,500 a set on a GT3 car. If you want new tires in the sim, you just reset the car, and there you go. So, any final words? Anybody you'd like to thank?
Thank my wife for allowing me to take the time away from her to do these races and build a bunch of sims for customers. So I got to deliver one tomorrow in Alabama for another member. So, that's just time away from family, but
Well, it's time well spent because it gets some good products into the hands of people who are certainly glad to have them. That was Jason Owens. He was our 4th place finisher here in race number 2. Congratulations to him on a really good race weekend. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead and take us out?
Well, folks, that rounds up the coverage for round 5 of the Driving Club at Road Atlanta iRacing Winter League, Sebring International Raceway, a true classic in sports car folklore. And what a couple of races we've had here. Rafael Junior Torres breaking the winning streak, but Jamil Gummer back on the counter-offensive and picks up the win in the feature. Folks, join us in just 7 days' time. 8 p.m. Eastern, February the 19th. We're going to go back to where home is for all these drivers. Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta for the 6th and final round. And we'll see at that point how high Jamil Gummer's points advantage will be. Our coverage will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UK time on the 19th of February 2025. Coming up on the Global Sim Racing Channel, there's plenty of racing action to get your teeth into. We go back in action on Saturday, February the 15th at Mugello for Grand Prix Legends, starting at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. That's 1:30 p.m. UTC. Then the IMSA Vintage Series continues on the very same day. They head to the home of British Motorsport at 1700 UTC, 12 p.m. Eastern. The major series returns to GSRC on Sunday the 16th of February at 4 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. Eastern. And then, of course, the Sunday Grand Prix Series Lotus 79 Series heads to the Styrian countryside and, more to the point, the Red Bull Ring at 4:30 p.m. UTC, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us. You've joined myself, Alex Goldschmidt. Big thank you to the team behind the scenes as well, Michael Johnson, our director, Christian Deploy, and also Dougie Beard providing the cameras. Stay tuned for further great racing here on GSRC. Race hard, race fair. And if in doubt, well, you better go flat out. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.